Hi, this is Pam with ROC Metaphysical. If you haven't watched any of the other videos, which you should have, but it's ROC Metaphysical, all one word, .com, and you'll see it down below. It's a metaphysical magazine with articles that come out the first of each month. It's online only, so we're not killing trees, and you can go on at any time and look at articles. There's also event information, classes, that kind of thing. And each month I it's kind of surprised. I never know who's going to be contributing. And the other aspect I like about it is that everybody volunteers their articles because they feel so strongly about the topic or the skill set or whatever they offer. So that speaks volumes to me, and I hope it does to others. So today we're talking with Marjorie Baker Price, and it's kind of timely because we have spoken and I'm feeling a little stressed out. And part of that, is the news and Facebook and whatever other public space where there's information, I find very stressful and anxiety making because it's not positive, and I'm not the nightly news, there's only like 1 minute of positive news, and it really isn't making me feel any better about the other 20 some minutes of things that they talk about, and there's like natural disasters, and I mean there's just a lot of not good stuff going on. And as I talk to some of my friends and whatever, it's really disconcerting. So I talked to Marjorie, and so now I'm going to ask Marjorie to talk about your background as to why we're talking.
Well, sure. And happy to connect with you. We go back quite a ways. And I think we do live in critical, peaking, conflict ridden times. And we're very challenged to, more than ever, I will say, find our way. So I am a community health and psychiatric nurse clinician, as well as a certified hypnotherapist and a certified medium. I've been channeling all my life, and a published author and a Reiki Master and a shamanic healer. I better stop there. At any rate, so in 1987, which was a vision that I had carried with me since 1974, I did manifest my practice, which is called Centering Tools for Self-Care, Self-Healing, Empowerment, and Development. And
Long name.
kind of lived to see a lot of those words that were not well used back in 1987 become quite common. And I still very much enjoy my work. I have a very eclectic practice. I've presented across many professional lines and educational lines and metaphysical lines, and you name it. I do like a wide variety of opportunities to focus on what is currently called, among other phrases, finding your authentic self, igniting our own innate capacity to heal and support ourselves, and be able to continue to evolve and newly create. And so these are all aspects of my practice. I have channeled thousands of guided meditations and been published in terms of journaling books and inner child recovery books and so on and so on and so on. And these are all ongoing areas of fascination for me. I feel these are new times. There are a lot of old conflicts that are, I think, in ways more revealed than they've ever been. I am a very enthusiastic student of history, and I find it very fascinating and very helpful, especially in challenging times. And yet, paradoxically, these are new, more complicated challenges. And I think there's a key message for us all to be pushed. Forcing does have its uses. Many times it does not, but I think when we feel forced to really find within ourselves a source of rescuer, provider, strength, support, we can cast off what otherwise will condemn us as adults to a lot of regressed behaviors, looking outside of ourselves in a place of increasing dependency, which causes problems to designated others, whether those designated others, quote unquote, are defined as angels or demons. Then there's us. And what about us? What about us as adults? What about us as multidimensional adults? What about us as adults who really can, however we might define it and experience it, be in touch with our own infinite spirits? And I think, like no other times, our times do call for that. So,
So, so as a more of a layperson and just the one that gets stressed out, and you're the one that helps people be unstressed, is it, I'm supposed to be looking inward to help, you
that's
know,
right. Yes.
stabilize myself and
Yeah.
somehow just say, okay, whatever that bad stuff is that I see or hear, I'm going to just let it go.
Not quite. You're
Oh,
missing
okay.
something, which is what we feel stuck on. And this isn't original with me. It comes from, among other uh, great practitioners, metaphysical therapist practitioners, Carl Jung, who I quite enthusiastically embrace. If you haven't looked him up, I highly recommend it. Jung. He was a student of Sigmund Freud. They broke away. He explored a lot of metaphysical and ancient spiritual approaches, as well as some breakthrough therapeutic approaches. And he maintained that our understandable stress and anxiety in experiencing peaking conflict and no kind of apparent resolution exactly reflected in metaphorical ways something going on inside of us. So, of course, the world, so to speak, exists beyond us. But I think what we can grab hold of within our own initiative to find an inner source of strength, to embark on creative journeys toward increasing self healing development and empowerment, is to not leave ourselves out of these equations at all, especially when we feel stuck. I'm so happy that the word self care has finally become as well used, because without question, rehabituating ourselves in ways that certainly in modern times we haven't, find self-help tools, simple tools. It really doesn't take much to stop, close your eyes, and pay attention to your breath. And that happens to be the definition of meditating. Those are the steps. And to continue to reacquaint ourselves with just how connected we are to what I could call the space of no thing, and I could also paradoxically call the all that is. And the really cool thing is 5-10 minutes a day offers immense benefit. This is not something that requires extended periods of time. We dip in, we get a benefit. We shift our entire energetic patterning. If we take a few notes with how we're hit with genuine insights, I call that journaling. And 5 minutes of that is just like gold.
So that's just one little simple thing that I could do like in the morning before I get up.
You could, or any
Or,
other time.
or if there's something that stressed me out, I could go sit in my car or, go somewhere and just take a break for 5 or 10 minutes and just kind of,
Exactly. Yes. And we do know how to do this. We are not profoundly pushed to do this at all. And my pet theory as to how that is involves how we have continued to be held captive by externally driven dominating systems, which are sources of oppression for us. But these are loose chains. Like, I love the tarot. I've taught many tarot classes. I continue to work with it. The major arcana of the tarot, the kind of cards that didn't survive when tarot turned into modern day playing cards, um, include titles like the devil. And the cool thing about the devil card is there's a man and woman, and then this big horned creature, how we might commonly picture the devil. And the devil is looming over this couple. They each have a chain around their neck. It's loose, and their hands are free. So the interpretation is you can remove the chains. And if we really got that, I do think we'd be living in a very different world. This is about reclaiming innate power. And that has nothing to do with dominance. Dominance is an expression of weakness and runaway sense of unaddressed lack. Power is something else. And we carry that, and it's indestructible. And when we're in a crisis, we turn to that because our options seem to have otherwise disappeared. We don't have the luxury to sit around and obsess and whatever else. It's like, hey, this is in my face. I have to do something. So I don't wait around for some made up or presenting external force because I am an adult to solve my problems for me. That's up to me. So, to me, some of the great messaging of the challenge of our times is if we think that some magical being is going to appear and rescue us and make it all right, we'd better just say that we're 5 years old and start reading a few fairy tales. Look in the mirror. That's who it is. And I don't know that it gets any better than that. And I don't think it is any better than that. Truly, we've been taught to fear our power. Nelson Mandela said that we're afraid of our power. And that's worked very well to seduce us into dominating systems because then we
and
feel
women
a sense of
too.
lack. Pardon me?
Women have been taught, the
Women have
patriarchal,
been,
we'll go the patriarchal society, put a
oh,
kibosh on us women
yeah,
folk being in charge way back when.
and continuing. We are
Yes.
50% of the world's population, and we are still profoundly oppressed. And there's no reason for that. Meaning, there are a lot of reasons for that, including even now, of course, legal reasons. Even now in this country, countless thousands of women are murdered every day violently by men. Congress does not equally represent women, and the president is not a woman. Um, and we've only had the vote in this country for 102 years, and it took 80 years for that to happen. So these are some sobering facts. Um, I think we possess, as women, immense power through what is called, and I include that. It's the focus of my 3 monthly women's self-healing and spirituality groups, the divine feminine, the goddess. For 100,000 years and more on the earth plane, we worship a god us. God us. I do like that word. And so the egalitarianism is not talking about dominance. It's saying men, women, so on and so on. We want to name other targeted groups and all this silly baloney. We can do that or stop there. We are the same. We're uniquely different, and fundamentally, we are the same. There is no other. Zero.
Well, I'd like to say, we all have to breathe air. We all, have to put our shoes on that, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, there might be some DNA differences, but I think that women are not given a fair chance. Well, that could be a
Not
whole
for,
other topic, but
and sure, I'd be very happy to talk about that. Not for thousands of years. The cool thing about breaking systems, though, which I believe describe our times, is they create openings.
well, all right.
They
So that
create.
makes me feel a little better. So,
Uh-huh. Well, it should. Um, Dysfunctional systems are dense and entangled. They're also chaotic, and they happen to be delusional. Takes immense energy externally to keep those things afloat. As we come to decide, I don't want to put my energy into that, I come to understand what dysfunction versus function is. I am my own best customer. I always have been. I've been immensely aware of that. I wouldn't dare do what I'm doing in my practice. I don't think I'd have much to stand on if I was not uh, fully committed centrally to being my own best customer. And um, everything continues beyond that. So when we talk about, as great spiritual traditions describe, supporting the greater good, that means nobody gets left out. And certainly women have been conditioned to leave themselves out of everything, and in fact have been subject to being pretty much left out of everything, other than making babies and giving birth, because only women can do that. Once the combination is planted, it is planted in a uterus. That's what happens. So I think, and with patriarchal systems, mother then was admittedly allowed, however, not in any kind of empowered way. Crone, originally there were three faces, a trinity of the goddess: maiden, mother, and crone. So maiden was an object to be seduced. Mother is what procreated the species. Crone, we better get rid of the crone, because these would be very empowered women. They would have lived, had many lifetime experiences. They no longer have to be primarily concerned with dependent children, not as mother. And so the power is right there. And the crone was kind of the face of the goddess that was feared most of all. So what did the patriarchy do? We associate the word crone still with the ugly old hag, and not exactly. One of the best movie depictions of crone energy actually is the original Wizard of Oz movie. She was not disguised or um, positioned to look like, and she wasn't, a young woman, Billy Burke. She was up there, and she was strutting her beauty and her power, and was the most powerful figure in Oz, unabashedly. So I think there was a lot of seeding that took place. That was a pretty daring thing to do in 1939, actually. Women were even worse off in many ways than they were today. Of course, the minute World War II hit, somebody had to work in the factories and men were off to war. So women participated more primarily in the work world, in society. And then I was born in 1950. So everybody's mother in our neighborhood, other than mine, who had to work because we wanted to eat, etc., sat around all day looking really bored, um, and they were college graduates, and there was nothing for them to do other than hang around and smoke and drink coffee because they were well fixed economically. And so they had other women of color, right, dusting the plastic covered living room furniture. Those were the days.
Right.
And they sat there. And I remember going in and out of the neighborhood kitchens when I was a kid, because this was baby boom town. And so everybody had a million kids, and just almost feeling pushed back looking in those kitchens because the energy from those poor women was just awful. It was awful. But that was what produced Betty Friedan writing The Feminine Mystique. And she didn't get a lot of kudos for that, not even from women. She
Right.
took a lot of heat for that, which kind of birthed in the 70s when it finally exploded.
Well, she was speaking her
Feminism.
truth, and a lot of people didn't like it.
Well, that is the problem with speaking truth. But speaking of pulling the external seeking of approval, and what is somebody going to say, which, what are we talking about? A ghost? You know, to start tracking some of these faulty belief systems, they're beyond silly. Again, we're not specifically talking about individuals. What will people say? What does that word people mean? Oh, we're talking about projections from faulty belief systems
Right.
and a reinforcement of projected innate lack. And women have been hugely conditioned to deny their own intrinsic worth. And when we're subject to dominant systems, that is a terrible price that we pay. Our worth is compromised for sure. So there is a lot, which I think is very important, said around, yes, these are stressed out, challenging, different, breaking times. And what are we for ourselves and each other going to do about that?
That's
It's
what was going
time
to be my
to
next
grow up.
question. All right.
Yeah. So there are infinite possibilities. Self-care is a cornerstone. Reacquainting ourselves with how to de-stress ourselves, which includes movement outdoors. Outdoors. It isn't impossible to go outdoors. Um, I'm 75 years old and had a hip and shoulder replaced a few years back. So ice is not my friend. Much as I adore walking in the woods, that's few and far between this winter because of the weather. So I go to Pittsburgh Plaza. What can I tell you? The sidewalks are bare. I soak it up. I hug trees in Pittsburgh Plaza. That's how desperate I am to hug trees. If you haven't hugged a tree, do it. It's the best. They are the best collective spiritual offerings maybe on the planet.
And there's
I've
a lot of books on that. So, I mean,
Well, finally, yes. I've
yeah.
done that since I was a child. Nobody told me to do it. I mean, we carry so much innate wisdom if we can just listen to ourselves. And in order to listen to ourselves, the chatter, the habitual chatter, doesn't have to stop. It's our job to find a compelling enough draw so that we move past and beyond the chatter, and then pretty soon the chatter shuts up and we rehabituate ourselves to open to the infinity of who and what we are. We're magnificent. We are magical. We are a unique expression, I believe, of the all that is, of source. We can regenerate. We regenerate on an ongoing basis. And we must care for each other as we care for ourselves. I don't think we can much longer afford to tolerate leaving anybody out of the equation. And that to me includes trees, not just humans, all representations. And this may sound very complicated and la and whatever. These are now finally being addressed and addressed in addition with related scientific research and environmental crises and so on. But everything we do for ourselves and each other, everything counts. Our consciousness doesn't judge the way our stupid, faulty belief systems are. So we meditate, we smile at someone, we view our humans and other representations of consciousness as we view ourselves in the best light. These things count immensely. They're immense transmissions.
Right. I think
So
if I'm stressed out, it's kind of like my cup is empty. So, trying to do things that make
that's
me feel,
that's
like,
right.
yeah, I feel good today, whatever that is.
Exactly.
I work out, I do
Yeah,
aerobics, the yoga, that kind of thing
very
to,
important. Yes.
movement helps me.
It
Um,
the body isn't happy not being moved.
yeah.
Indigenous people say if we're not moving an hour a day, our body is really suffering at a minimum.
So, if
Hmm.
you fill your cup, however you do that, go hug a tree, go out, walk in nature, you
Well put.
know, go to
That's right.
church, whatever it is, you
Create.
need to do. And then I'm finding in this stressful time that people are
Hmm.
just mean, mean,
Well,
mean to other
when
people.
we're when we are defaulting to denying ourselves and our own fundamental tenets of self-care, we get mean. Hmm? And people are us. So whoever, whatever we complain about, can we stop for a moment and say, wait a minute, does this quality exist in me? Because boy, that drives home the point that there are no others, like nobody's business. We have immense capability in all directions. And to face ourselves unconditionally and face in all directions our potential, hmm, changes the game immensely. Now we can access compassion for ourselves and each other, and we can stop blaming, which is a primary characteristic of the second stage of grief, which is bargaining. That is not the fifth stage of grief, which is acceptance, which I define as accepting what's real. And after number two comes number three, which is anger. Certainly, women were told that was absolutely taboo to go anywhere near that emotion. And then comes despair, helplessness, hopelessness, immense sadness. So we hit the rock bottom, so to speak. But who knew that the rock bottom was the treasure that allows us to return to a place of emotional freedom? And without emotional freedom, as the saying goes, we ain't got nothing.
I mean,
We've got no space for empowerment. We've got no space for healing. We've got no space for caring. We've got no space for development. So, guess what? The price of that is to face unconditionally any and all feelings, especially the most disquieting ones. We've been taught to run from those. That's what happens when we're stressed. We flip into fight, flight, freeze. And those are not the spaces where solutions lie.
right.
So to dare to stand up to these impulses and say, yes, I feel like running away. I feel like destroying, you name it. I can't move, fight, flight, freeze. We admit that. And then we go deeper and say, in this moment, how am I feeling? It's a very simple question. It is a revolution. And we dive into, we surrender. How about that word? To our feelings. And our feelings just want to be heard. And they don't even want to take a long time. We can't make ourselves take a long time with these dives. They're literally a few minutes. But by vibrationally, we clear, we shift, we elevate, we open up the intuition, we raise consciousness to higher thought and creative action. that is the other cornerstone I do want to mention about self-care. I said a little bit when you were so insightfully talking about these, I would call them centering tools. Like the name of my practice is create, 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 create. We are immensely creative beings. We are so compelled to create. And so it takes a lot to interfere with that. And we've been conditioned to do that. So that's got to go. We experience, we believe as we freely create in our own immensity. And
and I
we're a lot less worried about what the other guy is doing. Yay.
yeah, I wish I could remember the quote, but talking about creating opens a space.
It does. It opens an infinite space. Yes. Good catch. So I have, because I felt very pressed, as we all are, in our peaking, newly challenging, breaking, different times to, in being my own best customer, really deeply explore, well, what are dominant systems? How do we come to states of oppression and all the rest? And what is the energy of that? Because energy is very malleable, it's constantly moving. And how can we then find openings to transmute, to flip, so to speak, to even advantageously use these challenges for even greater self-healing, development, empowerment? So I am offering a Zoom workshop. My email is marjorie@centeringtools.com. It is on Facebook Centering Tools page, and it is on my website, which is centeringtools.com. I'm offering a 2-hour Zoom workshop on a week from today, tomorrow, Tuesday, February 25th, from 6:30 to 8:30. I do love working in groups and have done that throughout my practice. And you kindly invited me to write an article, which I did focus. And my website has other articles. I do send out a newsletter. And I'm very, very called to join and help and support. I feel we're all called to do that, actually, and we need that, all of us. So,
Well, I really appreciate all this information. And what I wanted to say, and you could probably chime in, is that, I'm going to do what I need to do to kind of reduce my stress and, tune
good,
in and do
good.
everything I can to kind of, you know,
Hmm.
just calm down and not, sometimes I feel angry and
That
frustrated
makes
and
sense. Yeah,
with, all that's
that's
going
right.
on.
Hmm.
But I like action.
We all do.
So,
Good.
I mean, I would, whether you want to speak to that or not, but I think if you have an issue and always being, because I always like to be positive, define a positive action, which would be, joining, even going to like a group where you can just talk about your feelings is one thing.
That's
But if
right.
you feel, like you don't like how things are going with the environment, join a group. If
That's right.
you think your school system isn't working well, then join the PTSA or,
That's right.
if
Absolutely.
there's other bigger issues that we've kind of, then join a group that you think is going to help move us forward as
Yes.
as humans,
Uh-huh. Yes.
that I can't say that enough, that if we can use our energy for good in a group to,
We want to. Our
be
hardwiring is always to support the greater good.
right, that,
Again, I think to as much as possible, also speaking of chiming in, not forget the requirement to look within as well as without. There are wonderful groups out there. Um, Everything is proliferating in experiencing these unique peaking challenges and um, the collective opportunity, right? So Carl Jung talked a lot about the collective as well as the individual. It's important to track agendas. The word negative, if you take the conditioned judgment out of it, simply describes the space of no thing, which I do want to highlight. There's nothing bad about that. As a matter of fact, we depend on that. When we go into a full meditative state, we enter that. When we create, there's no thing there. That's space to create. And I think those words can be defined, quote unquote, positive and negative in much more limited, simplistic, faulty belief system ways. And so simply considering, and to me, you really spoke to this, Pam, and bravo to you, what feels right to us. Right is an operative. We all have a conscience. And I think, yes, it objectively can be possible for a human being to exist in a schism where there may be a sense of loss, conscience. And this to me is some of the keystone of our unleashed spirit, to embrace and understand and consider what does it mean to feel and correspondingly do right. It is time for us to ask these questions and not fall all over ourselves to, even before we ask the question, throw up some conditioned answer. It's better for us to almost tell ourselves that we don't know, because when we're stuck and conflicted, we don't know. And so let's start with that. The question is the key to growth, an open-ended question minus an agenda. So we're not talking about a pseudo question that's already got a canned answer before we even start asking that to ourselves or anyone else. We're talking about an open-ended, curious question in the space of no thing. And so as we, to me, return to what I would call our inner sacred center, now we have a place of infinite power we can radiate out to corresponding groups, to action. Everything counts, including the interaction. Everything counts. We're transmitting all the time. We're very transparent, telepathic beings. And to challenge ourselves to bring into our conscious awareness what, on free consideration, we feel we do know, and fall all over ourselves to admit what we equally feel we don't know. This is, I think, the crying challenge, to move much more into that and see where we land. I think we want to help each other. We want to care for each other. Again, without exception, that includes us and quote unquote others. We are all the collective, and respecting the paradox, we are uniquely different. And it is eminently possible for us to exist in both ends of that range. So I see the challenge of our time is finding that as how to heal these schisms. So,
Yep. This is, we could talk for hours. So, but
yeah.
uh, the video will be with the article, and Marjorie gave all her information. So if you'd like to continue a conversation with Marjorie, um, she does see people one-on-one and groups. And if there was a big group of people that wanted to talk more, I know she'd be willing to facilitate um, a, people,
Yeah.
trying to come to terms with how they feel, where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's why I kind of reached out to her. because I had a friend that, was having, is similar in her skill set and wanted to, do more, and it was synchronistic timing. So I'm glad we could do this, and
Me too.
hopefully people will listen to the video and maybe listen to it a couple times because you did talk about a lot of
I
things.
did. I did. Yes, indeed.
To listen to
Yes.
it, to
Yeah.
kind of understand, how we work and what we can do to help ourselves. And then,
Hmm.
we can move forward. I know there was something on my phone, and if I don't get too lost here, um,
Hmm.
it was a picture that I had that I wanted to
Oh.
read. It was very simple. So if you see me with my head down, that's why I'm looking at my phone.
Hmm.
So I like this, and I'm a sap for sweet, nice things. So I kind of wanted to close this with this I saw on Facebook. I choose love.
Hmm.
I choose inclusion. I choose empathy, compassion, equality, dignity, diversity. I choose community, kindness, integrity, honesty, respect. I choose justice. I choose facts, peace, the planet. It's going to get me verklempt. I choose
I
humanity.
do know the meaning of that word, sweet
Yeah.
pea.
I
Hmm.
choose love. So this was one of the reasons why I wanted to do this video, because this is maybe our little part to, help people. So,
I love uh, your uh, commandments, and am so glad to be here, to offer and share and listen. If you don't mind sending me that, I would love it. That's
okay.
terrific. That really sums it up. So
Yeah.
thank you, and always glad to connect for sure, Pam.
All right. Well, thank you. And
Okay,
we'll talk soon.
very good.
All right.
Okay,
Bye.
bye for now.